All right, Nels and Kelly coming at you from Longmont, Colorado for participatory happy hour with Grain-Centric cocktails. Welcome.
Yes. Hello, everybody. How's everybody
Hi.
doing? Um, we're right here in Longmont. We are not in the distillery right now. We are actually building out a larger distillery. So today was our concrete cutting day. So we decided probably won't do it from there. But what we're going to give you is we're going to give you a virtual tour of liquid grain instead. Um, so today I've got Kelly here because Kelly is our a mixologist, alchemist, who helps us design a lot of our cocktails. We're pretty good at designing our spirits. Kelly is great at making them just shine in a glass.
Thanks.
So what we do, we're a small craft distillery that we distill almost everything exclusively from grains that are appropriate to Colorado, or heirloom grains that are quite suitable and grown typically within 30 miles of the distillery. We're one of the few distillers that makes single grain wheat whiskeys. One of our flagships is our heirloom wheat whiskey, which is actually 100% white Sonora. We get it from Hayden Mills as well as Mark Arnish Farms right here in Colorado. We're extremely proud of our ability to finally crack the code on this grain. It has been a big challenge. It does not behave like modern grains, even the modern yeasts that we have to work with. We end up having to develop our own modified strain of yeast to really get the yields that we need from the fermentation process with this grain. But we are also thrilled that this last summer, although it was one of the hottest, driest summers in Colorado, I think in the last 99 years, it was one of the driest we've seen. We had planted our first test crop right here in Colorado. And while it looked pretty rough, the Sonora grain, out of almost all the wheats that were growing on the test plots, came through with flying colors with not a drop of added water. So I think we got less than 6 inches of moisture on that crop, and we still managed to get the yields. So it's a phenomenal grain. And of course, going through that, the stresses just brings out some of the most incredible notes and flavors in our whiskeys itself. So we produce about 2 barrels a month right now of our whiskey. We're expanding that over the next year to between 5 and 7 barrels a month, and so far we've gotten great reviews of it. And all we can do is credit the grain. So we've got a treat for you today. If you have your favorite local spirits, your favorite local whiskey, we're going to show you a really simple but very grain-centric cocktail. And I'm going to have turn this over to Kelly.
All right. So today we are going to make a Rejuvelac highball, basically. Rejuvelac is a fermented drink made from sprouted wheat berries, and basically the fermentation process extracts the majority of the nutrients out of the grain and makes a tangy, refreshing drink. So we're going to do 2 ounces of whiskey. And then we're going to do 3 ounces of Rejuvelac. And you guys can check out culturesforhealth.com. We'll give you a step-by-step of how you could make Rejuvelac with your own wheat berries.
And these wheat berries came from Andy at Moxie Bread Co.
Yes, all of our white Sonora had already been malted, so we had to run down to Moxie to get some that was not malted in order to make the Rejuvelac. And then top with 3 ounces of ginger beer. And because the Rejuvelac has a decent amount of tang, I found that I didn't even need to add any lime, but just for the aroma's sake, topping it with some French lime zest helps just add a little depth to the cocktail. Alrighty. So I think Nels.
Oh, yes. She's going to share it with me.
Yes.
I said, wait a minute, where's mine?
Yeah, exactly. So here. And
So
cheers.
Yes, we're gonna sip, and hopefully everybody has something near them as well.
Right. And if not, if you guys have any questions about the spirits or the cocktail or Rejuvelac in general, feel free to let us know.
This is absolutely delicious, by the way. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and you know, each Rejuvelac is different based upon the grain, but this one performed really well, especially for this cocktail. It just adds a little something to your typical highball.
So are there any questions about the distillery, about our whiskeys, or about making very simple grain-centric cocktails that highlight some of the coolest things in the world? We also have a malted barley old fashioned, which I think we should also make a note of at least.
Right. So another recipe that we came up with for grain-centric cocktail is using our Antero wheat whiskey. This Colorado Antero wheat was actually developed by CSU's agricultural department specifically for Colorado's climate. This whiskey is also 100% single grain wheat whiskey, and we combine 2 ounces of this with I believe half an ounce of malted barley syrup, and then 4 drops of orange bitters. And the malted barley syrup just adds a little more roundness, almost, I guess you would say, like to your standard old fashioned.
So
yeah,
this gives us a lot of flexibility with some very, very simple ingredients. And we were noticing that folks need they're asking for the recipe. So we're going to post the recipe this evening on drylanddistillers.com. And I think that it'll be posted at a number of other places as well.
yeah.
And Nels, this is Sean. Just because since we have a little time, I just thought maybe you move past it so fast, but just your story of actually working on the yeast, and how to, how you were actually able to, engineer something, or
Oh, sure.
I just was so fascinated by that story. It sounded incredible.
Yeah. So we were, I think, initially fascinated, and then after a while, we're like, this is crazy difficult. Yes. So the white Sonora, when we did the lab analysis, we discovered that there's a lot going on in the grain that just does not necessarily come out in a lot of the modern grains that we also had worked with. So there's a lot of different enzyme structures to it, and the protein structures are different as well. So we tried a multitude of yeasts to get the conversions during the fermentation, and we just could not get the yeast to convert the whole thing. So after being told by one of the leading yeast providers in the country that we were actually going after a flying pink unicorn, trying to get the conversions we wanted, we worked with a couple of our growers and ended up getting raw grain from the field, and we inoculated the strain that worked the best, the modern strain that worked the best. We inoculated that with grain from the field, and we also did open fermentations for about 7 batches to really try to get the yeast that liked the wheat to build strength and character. And so what we ended up, after doing all of that work on basically building our own yeast strains through that inoculation process, we now harvest our own yeasts to make sure that we have a mother strain of the yeasts that we were able to get the conversion levels that we wanted, which it was a big struggle. And what it does show us is that there are things going on in this grain that just we don't normally see. And we saw the same with malting the grain. We get this malted up at Troubadour Maltings in Fort Collins, a phenomenal craft malter. They're doing some wonderfully creative things, both with roasting and malting. Mm-hmm. And they ended up having to really learn an entire new malting recipe to get the right conversions, even in the malting of the white Sonora. So it's been a journey, well worth it. The whiskey is, we're bragging it up a little bit, but the whiskey is winning international awards right now. We were just compared with one of the 12-year Japanese whiskeys that is about 10 times more expensive than ours is, as being well worth the taste. So we give a lot of the credit itself to the grain. Our whiskeys are just the water, the grain, and the yeast that we finally managed to crack the code on. So I think the message here is that it takes a village. I know it sounds cheesy. We had a lot of people helping us out on this, from the growers to the malters, to the lab guys who just helped us be creative and trying to figure this stuff out. And it's been great.